The morning sun came through the dirty windows of the Riverside Diner. Elena Martinez tied her apron around her waist and looked at the clock on the wall. It was 6 in the morning. She had been awake since 4:30. This was normal for her now. She walked to the coffee machine and started making the first pot of the day. The smell of coffee filled the small diner. Elena liked this smell. It reminded her that another day was starting. Another day to work hard and earn money for her family. Elena was 28 years old. She had long dark hair that she always pulled back into a tight ponytail. Her brown eyes looked tired most days. She worked at the Riverside Diner 6 days a week. Sometimes she worked double shifts. This meant she worked from morning until late at night. She did not work so hard just for herself. Elena had a younger brother named Miguel. He was 22 years old and studying at the university. Miguel wanted to become a doctor. This was a big dream. It was also very expensive. 3 years ago, their parents died in a car accident. It happened on a rainy night in November. A truck hit their car on the highway. Elena and Miguel lost both their mother and father in one terrible moment. After that day, everything changed. Elena was the older sister. She felt responsible for Miguel. Their parents had always wanted Miguel to go to college. They had saved some money for his education. But it was not enough. University cost so much money. Books cost money. Housing cost money. Everything cost money, so Elena worked. She worked at the diner during the day. Sometimes she worked at a grocery store at night. She sent most of her money to Miguel. She kept only enough for rent and food. She lived in a tiny apartment with one room and a small bathroom. She did not mind. As long as Miguel could finish school, she was happy. The Riverside Diner was not a fancy place. It was small and old. The floor had black and white tiles that were cracked in many places. The tables were made of wood and had scratches all over them. The chairs did not match. Some were red and some were blue. The walls were painted yellow, but the paint was peeling off in the corners. But the diner was clean. Mr. Chen, the owner, made sure of that. He was a kind man in his 60s. He had owned the diner for 30 years. He knew all the regular customers by name. He always gave free coffee to the old men who came in every morning. Mr. Chen was good to Elena, too. He knew about her situation with Miguel. Sometimes he let her take home leftover food at the end of the day. He never said anything about it. He just packed it up and handed it to her with a small smile. The diner had about 15 tables. There was a long counter with stools where people could sit and eat. Behind the counter was the kitchen. It was small but had everything needed to cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Elena was not the only waitress. There was also Maria, who was older and had worked at the diner for 10 years. And there was a young girl named Sophie, who worked part-time after school. There was a cook named Frank who made all the food. Frank was a big man with a gray beard. He did not talk much, but he cooked good food. Today was Tuesday. Tuesdays were usually slow. The morning rush would come around 7:30 when people stopped by before work. Then it would be quiet until lunchtime. Elena liked the quiet times. It gave her a moment to breathe. She finished making the coffee and started setting up the tables. She put napkins and silverware at each place. She filled the salt and pepper shakers. She wiped down the menus. These were the small tasks she did every morning. At 7 o'clock, Mr. Chen came through the front door. He was carrying something big and heavy. Another man was with him. They were struggling with a large object covered in a blanket. "Elena, help us, please," Mr. Chen called out. He was breathing hard. Elena rushed over to hold the door open. The two men carried the heavy object inside. They set it down in the corner of the diner near the window. The corner had been empty for years. Now there was something there. Mr. Chen pulled off the blanket. Elena saw what it was, a piano. An old upright piano made of dark wood. It was beautiful, but it looked very old. The wood was scratched in places. Some of the ivory on the keys was yellow and cracked. "I bought it at an estate sale yesterday," Mr. Chen said. He was still breathing hard from carrying it. "I thought it would be nice to have music in the diner. Make it more special, you know?" Elena walked closer to the piano. She reached out and touched the wood gently. It felt smooth and cool under her fingers. She had not seen a piano in many years. Not since she was a little girl. "Does it work?" she asked. Mr. Chen shrugged. "I don't know." The man said some of the keys stick. "It needs tuning. But I got it for a good price. Maybe someday I will fix it." The other man left after Mr. Chen paid him. Mr. Chen stood looking at the piano with his hands on his hips. He seemed pleased with himself. You know how to play? He asked Elena. Elena hesitated. A little. My grandmother taught me when I was young, but that was a long time ago. Well, if you ever want to try it, go ahead, Mr. Chen said. Then he went into the kitchen to help Frank prepare for the breakfast rush. Elena stared at the piano for a long moment. Then she turned away and went back to work. The first customers would be arriving soon. The morning passed like it always did. People came in for breakfast. Elena took orders and brought food. She poured coffee and cleared tables. Her feet hurt by 10 o'clock. They always did. But she kept smiling at customers and doing her job. By 11:30, the breakfast rush was over. Only 2 tables had customers. They were old men drinking coffee and reading newspapers. They would sit there for hours. Mr. Chen never minded. He said everyone needed a place to belong. Maria had gone home. Her shift was over. Sophie would not come in until 3 o'clock for the dinner shift. Frank was in the kitchen preparing things for lunch. Mr. Chen was in his small office doing paperwork. Elena was alone in the dining room with the 2 old men. It was very quiet. She had already cleaned all the empty tables. She had refilled the coffee pots. She had restocked the napkins. There was nothing else to do for the moment. She found herself looking at the piano in the corner. It sat there like it was waiting for something, waiting for someone to play it. The sunlight from the window made the dark wood glow. Elena walked over to it slowly. She looked back at the kitchen. Frank was busy chopping vegetables. She looked at the 2 old men. They were not paying attention to her. They were arguing about something in the newspaper. She sat down on the piano bench. It was old and the cushion was worn out. She could feel the springs under the fabric. She lifted the cover that protected the keys. The keys were ivory and black. Some of them were chipped. Some were discolored, but they were still beautiful to her. Elena had not touched a piano in more than 15 years, not since her grandmother died. Her grandmother, Isabella, had been the most important person in her life when she was young. Isabella had raised Elena in a small village in Spain. This was before Elena and her parents moved to America. Elena was very young then, maybe 5 or 6 years old. She stayed with her grandmother while her parents were working in the city. Isabella had an old piano in her house. It was not fancy, but it worked. Every day, Isabella would sit at that piano and play. She played beautiful music. Music that made Elena feel peaceful and happy. Isabella taught Elena how to play. She showed her where to put her fingers. She taught her how to read music. But most importantly, she taught her to play from the heart, to feel the music inside and let it come out through her fingers. There was one song that Isabella played more than any other. It was a melody that Elena had never heard anywhere else. It was sad and beautiful at the same time. It made Elena think of stars in the night sky. It made her think of secrets and old stories. Isabella called the song El Canto de las Estrellas. This meant the Song of the Stars in English. Isabella said it was a very old song. It had been in their family for many, many years. Her own grandmother had taught it to her, and her grandmother had learned it from her grandmother. This song is special, Isabella told Elena one day. They were sitting at the piano together. Elena was 7 years old. This song is only for our family. You must never forget it, but you must never tell anyone where you learned it. Young Elena did not understand why it was a secret, but she promised her grandmother. She practiced the song over and over until she could play it perfectly. Even now, so many years later, she still remembered every note. Elena looked down at the keys of the old piano in the diner. Her fingers moved to rest on the keys. They found their positions automatically, like they remembered what to do. She pressed down gently on one key. The sound that came out was not quite right. The piano was out of tune, just like Mr. Chen had said. But it still made a sound. It still made music. Elena tried another key. This one stuck halfway down. She had to pull it back up with her finger. She smiled a little. This piano was broken, but it still wanted to play. She understood that feeling. She looked around one more time. The old men were still reading and arguing. Frank was still in the kitchen. Mr. Chen was still in his office. No one was paying attention to her. Elena took a deep breath. Then she began to play. Her fingers moved across the keys, finding the notes for El Canto de las Estrellas. Some of the keys stuck. Some of the notes were out of tune. But the melody was still there. The song was still beautiful, even coming from this broken piano. Elena closed her eyes as she played. She forgot about the diner. She forgot about her tired feet and her aching back. She forgot about the bills she had to pay and the money she needed to send to Miguel. She was 7 years old again, sitting next to her grandmother. She could smell Isabella's perfume. She could hear her grandmother's voice saying, "Beautiful, mi niña. You play it beautifully." The melody filled the small diner. It floated through the air like something alive. It was sad but also hopeful. It spoke of things lost and things remembered. It spoke of love that lasted beyond time and distance. Elena did not know how long she played. Maybe it was 2 minutes. Maybe it was 5. Time seemed to stop while her fingers moved across the broken keys. She was so lost in the music that she did not hear the bell above the door ring. She did not hear footsteps coming into the diner. She did not know that someone new had entered. She only knew that she was playing her grandmother's song. And for this one moment she felt close to Isabella again. She felt like that little girl in Spain who believed that music could make everything better. The last notes of the song faded away. Elena opened her eyes. She felt tears on her cheeks. She had not realized she was crying. She wiped her face quickly with her hand. Then she heard it. A voice behind her. A man's voice. It was shaking with emotion. "Where did you learn that?" Elena jumped up from the piano bench. She turned around fast. Her heart was beating hard in her chest. A man stood about 10 feet away from her. He was old, maybe in his 60s. He had gray hair and wore an expensive suit. His face was very pale, like he had seen a ghost. His blue eyes were wide and staring at her. He looked rich. Everything about him said he had money. His suit probably cost more than Elena made in 3 months. His shoes were shiny and perfect. His watch caught the light from the window. But right now he did not look powerful or rich. He looked shocked. He looked like someone who had just heard something impossible. "Where did you learn that song?" he asked again. His voice was louder now. He took a step toward her. Elena backed up. Her hip hit the piano. I don't understand," she said. Her voice was small. The man took another step forward. His hands were shaking. "That song. The one you just played. Where did you learn it?" The 2 old men at the table had stopped arguing. They were watching now. Frank came out of the kitchen to see what was happening. Mr. Chen appeared from his office. "Is there a problem here?" Mr. Chen asked. He moved to stand near Elena, but the man did not look at Mr. Chen. He only looked at Elena. His eyes were full of something she could not name. It was not anger. It was something else, something desperate and painful. "Please," the man said. His voice cracked. "Please tell me where you learned that song. It's very important." Elena's mind was racing. Who was this man? Why did he care about her grandmother's song? Isabella had said it was special, that it was a secret, that only their family knew it. But how could this strange man know it too? Elena stared at the strange man. Her heart was still beating fast. She did not know what to say. Part of her wanted to run away, but another part of her was curious. How did this man know about her grandmother's song? "Miss, I'm sorry if I scared you," the man said. He seemed to realize how he must look. He took a deep breath and tried to calm himself. "My name is Victor Ashford. I mean you no harm. But that song you just played, I haven't heard it in 45 years. 45 years? Elena repeated. She could not believe it. Victor nodded. He looked around the diner like he was seeing it for the first time. Then he looked back at Elena. "May I sit down? Please? I need to explain something to you, and I need to know how you know that song." Mr. Chen stepped forward. "Elena, you don't have to talk to him if you don't want to." Elena looked at her boss. Mr. Chen was protective of her. He was like a father to her sometimes. But she saw something in Victor's eyes. It was not danger. It was pain. Deep pain that had been there for a very long time. "It's okay," Elena said quietly. "I'll talk to him." She gestured to the nearest table. Victor sat down slowly. He moved like an old man, even though he did not look that old. Elena sat across from him. Her hands were shaking a little, so she put them in her lap. Mr. Chen went back to his office, but he left the door open. Frank stayed near the kitchen, watching. The 2 old men were still staring at them, not even pretending to read their newspapers anymore. Victor sat there for a moment. He seemed to be gathering his thoughts. Elena could see his hands on the table. They were shaking too. Where are you from? Victor asked finally. Here, Seattle, Elena said. But my parents came from Spain. I was born here, but I spent some time in Spain when I was little. Spain, Victor said softly. Something changed in his face. What part of Spain? A small village. You wouldn't know it. It's in the north, Victor leaned forward. And your family? Who taught you to play piano? Elena hesitated. She remembered her grandmother's words. The song was a secret. But this man already knew the song, and he was so desperate to understand. She could see it in every line of his face. My grandmother taught me, she said. She raised me for a few years when I was very young. She had a piano. She taught me to play. What was your grandmother's name? Isabella. Isabella Martinez. Victor closed his eyes. He sat back in his chair like someone had pushed him. He was quiet for a long time. Elena thought maybe he was sick. Maybe she should call for help. Then Victor opened his eyes. They were wet with tears. Martinez, he whispered. She took the name Martinez. I don't understand, Elena said. What do you mean she took the name? That was her name. Victor reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a wallet. From the wallet, he took out a small photograph. It was old and faded. The edges were worn like someone had touched it many times. He put the photograph on the table between them. This was my mother, he said. Elena looked at the photograph. It showed a young woman, maybe in her 20s. She was very beautiful. She had dark hair and dark eyes. She was sitting at a piano. Her hands were on the keys. She was smiling at the camera. Elena felt something cold go through her body. The woman in the photograph looked familiar. Very familiar. She looked like the old pictures Elena had seen of her grandmother when Isabella was young. I don't understand, Elena said again, but her voice was shaking now. Victor took a breath. My mother's name was Catherine. Catherine Delgado. She was from Spain. She came to America when she was 18. She married my father. They lived in New York. I was born in 1958. He paused. His hands made fists on the table. When I was 2 years old, my mother went to Europe. She said she was going to visit family. She never came back. My father told me she died. He said there was an accident. But they never found her body. There was no funeral, nothing. Elena's mind was spinning. She looked at the photograph again. Then she looked at Victor. Why are you telling me this? Because that song you played, Victor said. His voice was intense now. That was my mother's song. She played it for me when I was a baby. It's one of my only memories of her. She would sit at the piano and play that exact melody. I never heard it anywhere else. Not on the radio. Not in concerts, nowhere. It was like the song existed only for her. He pointed at the photograph. She called it her family's song. She said it had been passed down through generations. She said her grandmother taught it to her, and her grandmother learned it from her grandmother. Elena felt like she could not breathe. She looked at the woman in the photograph again. The resemblance to her grandmother was too strong to ignore. My mother's maiden name was Delgado, Victor continued, but maybe she changed it. Maybe she became someone else. Maybe she became Isabella Martinez. That's impossible, Elena said. But even as she said it, she wondered if it was true. Victor pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking so much he almost dropped it. Please, he said. Do you have a picture of your grandmother? When she was young? Elena did not want to show him. But something made her take out her own phone. She scrolled through her photos. She found one she had taken of an old photograph. It was a picture of Isabella when she was about 30 years old. It was taken in Spain before Isabella came to America. She turned her phone so Victor could see. Victor looked at the photo. Then he made a sound. It was not quite a cry and not quite a gasp. It was the sound of someone whose whole world had just changed. It's her, he whispered. Oh God, it's her. My mother. Elena pulled her phone back. You can't know that. The picture is old. The woman looks similar, but I know my own mother, Victor said. His voice was firm now. I spent years looking at the only photograph I had of her. I memorized every detail of her face. And this woman, your grandmother, is my mother. Elena stood up from the table. This was too much. This was crazy. You're wrong. You have to be wrong. My grandmother was Isabella Martinez. She lived in Spain. Then she came to America. She had a daughter, my mother. She had a normal life. When did she come to America? Victor asked. Elena had to think. I'm not sure exactly. Sometime in the late 1950s, I think. She didn't talk about it much. My mother disappeared in 1952, Victor said. She could have stayed in Europe for a few years. She could have built a new life. She could have come to America later with a new name. But why? Elena demanded. Why would she do that? Why would she leave you? Victor's face changed. It became hard and angry, but Elena could tell the anger was not directed at her. My father, he said quietly. My father was not a good man. He stood up too. He walked to the window and looked out at the street. Robert Ashford. That was his name. He was very rich, very powerful. He owned factories and businesses. Everyone respected him. Everyone feared him. Victor turned back to Elena. But at home he was cruel. I was too young to remember much. But when I got older, I heard stories from the people who worked for us. The maids. The drivers. They told me things. What things? Elena asked softly. My father was controlling. He did not like my mother's music. He thought it was a waste of time. He wanted her to be the perfect wife, to host parties, to smile and look beautiful, to never have her own thoughts or dreams. Victor came back to the table. They said my mother tried to leave him once before I was born. But my father threatened her. He said he would have her declared insane. In those days, men could do that. They could have their wives locked up in hospitals. It happened all the time. Elena felt sick. She sat back down in her chair. After I was born, my mother stayed, Victor continued. Maybe she thought she had to. For me. But then something happened. I don't know what. Something that made her leave anyway. Something that made her desperate enough to run. He looked at Elena with those intense blue eyes. What if she didn't die? What if she escaped? What if she went back to Spain and became Isabella Martinez? What if she built a new life where my father could never find her? Elena wanted to say it was impossible. But she remembered things about her grandmother now. Strange things she had never really thought about before. Isabella never talked about her past. She never mentioned Elena's grandfather. When young Elena asked about him, Isabella would just say he was gone and change the subject. Isabella had been afraid of something. Elena remembered that now. The way her grandmother would get nervous if a strange car drove past the house. The way she would never let Elena tell anyone their last name when they went to the city. And the song. El Canto de las Estrellas. Isabella had been so serious when she taught it to Elena. Never tell anyone where you learned this. Never play it where strangers can hear. But today, Elena had played it, and the stranger had heard it. I need to know the truth, Victor said. Please. I've spent my whole life wondering what happened to my mother. I've spent millions of dollars trying to find her. I hired investigators. I searched records. I found nothing. She vanished like she never existed. He sat down again. He looked very tired suddenly. I'm 67 years old. I'm running out of time. If there's even a chance that your grandmother was my mother, I need to know. I need to understand why she left. I need to know if she ever thought about me. Elena did not know what to say. Part of her wanted to protect her grandmother's memory. Isabella had been a good woman, a kind woman. She had loved Elena very much, but maybe Isabella had been running from something terrible. Before she died, she talked to me, Elena continued. She was very weak. She could barely speak, but she held my hand and she said, Elena stopped. She remembered that day so clearly. The hospital room, the machines beeping. Her grandmother's thin hand in hers. She said, what? Victor asked gently. She said, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you everything. There are things I had to keep secret, not because I wanted to, but because I had to stay safe, had to keep all of you safe. Elena wiped her eyes. I didn't understand what she meant. I thought she was confused from the medicine. Victor was very still. What else did she say? She told me to always remember the song, El Canto de las Estrellas. She said it was her gift to me, her way of staying connected to her past. Even when everything else was gone, the song would remain. There was a long silence. The only sound was the clock on the wall ticking. Finally, Victor spoke. I need to know for certain. I need proof. What kind of proof? Elena asked. DNA test, Victor said. It's simple, fast. If your grandmother was my mother, then you and I are related. We share DNA. The test will show that. Elena's first thought was no. She did not want to do this. She did not want to dig up the past. Her grandmother was dead. Let her rest in peace, but then she thought about Victor. This old man who had spent his whole life wondering about his mother, who had grown up believing she was dead, who had never gotten to say goodbye, and she thought about herself, about the things she did not know about her own family, about the secrets Isabella had kept. Maybe it was time to know the truth. Okay, Elena said. I'll do the test. Victor's face changed. Hope spread across it like sunlight. Thank you, he said. His voice was thick with emotion. Thank you so much. He pulled out a business card from his wallet. He wrote something on the back of it. This is my personal number. Call me anytime. I'll arrange for the DNA test. I can have someone come here or we can go to a lab. Whatever is easier for you. Elena took the card. She looked at it. The front said Victor Ashford, CEO, Ashford Technologies. There was an address in downtown Seattle. You live here? In Seattle? She asked. No, I live in San Francisco. I was here for a business meeting. My car broke down just outside. I came in here to wait while my driver fixed it. He laughed, but it was a sad sound. I almost didn't come in. I almost just waited in the car, but I was tired. I wanted coffee, so I came inside. He looked at the piano in the corner, and I heard that song. The song I thought I would never hear again. Elena followed his gaze to the old broken piano. It sat there in the sunlight looking innocent. Just an old piece of furniture. But it had changed everything. I have to get back to work, Elena said. She stood up. Victor stood too. Of course. I've taken enough of your time. He paused. Can I ask you one more thing? What? Your grandmother? Was she happy? In her life after she left New York? Elena thought about this. She remembered Isabella's smile, the way she sang while cooking, the way she laughed at silly things, the way she hugged Elena tight and called her mi tesoro, my treasure. Yes, Elena said. She was happy. She had a good life. She had family who loved her. Victor nodded slowly. A tear ran down his cheek. He did not wipe it away. Good, he whispered. That's good. That's all I wanted for her. To be happy. He walked to the door. Then he turned back. I'll call you tomorrow. We'll arrange the test. And Elena, thank you for playing that song today. Even if the test shows I'm wrong, even if your grandmother wasn't my mother, you gave me a gift today. You let me hear that melody one more time. You let me remember her just for a moment. Then he was gone. The door closed behind him. The bell above it rang once. Elena stood there for a long time. She looked at the business card in her hand. Then she looked at the piano. Mr. Chen came out of his office. Are you okay? He asked. I don't know, Elena said honestly. I really don't know. That night, Elena could not sleep. She lay in her small bed in her small apartment. She kept thinking about Victor's face, about the photograph of the young woman at the piano, about her grandmother's secrets. She got up and turned on her laptop. She typed Victor Ashford into the search engine. Hundreds of results came up. Victor Ashford was famous. He was a billionaire. He had started a technology company 30 years ago. Now it was worth billions of dollars. He was one of the richest men in America, but he was also known for being private. He rarely gave interviews. He did not go to parties or events. People called him a recluse. They said he lived alone in a big house and hardly ever came out. Elena found an article from a magazine. It was about Victor's life. It said his mother had died when he was young. It said his father had raised him. Robert Ashford had been very strict, very demanding. He had pushed Victor to succeed in business, but the article also said that Victor never married. He had no children, no family at all. He was alone. Elena closed her laptop. She thought about her own family. Her parents were dead, but she had Miguel. She had her brother. They still had each other. Victor had no one. She picked up her phone. She looked at the business card. She looked at the number Victor had written. Then she sent a text message. This is Elena from the diner. I'm ready to do the DNA test. Tell me when and where. The response came back in less than a minute. Thank you. I'll arrange everything. I'll call you in the morning. Elena put her phone down. She lay back in bed. Outside her window, she could hear the city. Cars driving past. People talking. The world moving on like always. But for Elena, everything had changed. Nothing would ever be the same again. The DNA testing center was in downtown Seattle. It was in a tall building made of glass and steel. Elena felt out of place as she walked through the fancy lobby. Her waitress uniform seemed wrong here. Everything was so clean and expensive looking. Victor was waiting for her. He stood up when he saw her come in. He was wearing another expensive suit. But today he looked different. He looked nervous, hopeful, scared. "Thank you for coming," he said. Elena nodded. She did not know what to say. This whole situation still felt unreal to her. A woman in a white coat came to get them. She was a lab technician. She had a kind smile. She led them to a small room. She explained what would happen. She would take a sample from inside Elena's cheek. Just a quick swab. It would not hurt. She would do the same for Victor, then they would wait. The results would take about 3 days. The whole process took less than 10 minutes. The technician swabbed the inside of Elena's cheek. Then she swabbed Victor's cheek. She put the samples in small tubes and labeled them. Then it was done. "I'll call you both as soon as we have results," the technician said. Victor and Elena walked out of the building together. They stood on the sidewalk. People rushed past them. Everyone was busy. Everyone had somewhere to go. "Can I buy you lunch?" Victor asked. "There's a restaurant nearby. We could talk." Elena wanted to say no. She wanted to go back to her normal life. Back to the diner where things made sense. But something made her say yes instead. They went to a small Italian restaurant. It was quiet and nice. The waiter brought them menus. Elena looked at the prices and felt sick. One meal here cost as much as she made in a whole day of work. "Order anything you want," Victor said. "Please, it's my treat." Elena ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, spaghetti with tomato sauce. Victor ordered the same thing. The waiter looked surprised but said nothing. When the food came, they ate in silence for a while. Then Victor spoke. "Tell me about your grandmother. What was she like?" Elena put down her fork. She thought about Isabella. She was kind. She loved to cook. She made the best food. She would sing while she cooked. Old Spanish songs. Victor smiled a little. "My mother sang too. I remember that. She had a beautiful voice." Isabella loved flowers, Elena continued. She had a garden. She grew roses and tomatoes and herbs. She said working in the garden made her happy. It made her feel at peace. What else?" Victor asked. He was hanging on every word. Elena told him more. About how Isabella loved to read. How she would take Elena to the library every week. How she told stories at bedtime. Stories about princesses and dragons and magic. She was afraid sometimes, though, Elena said. "I remember that. She would get nervous, especially around strangers. She did not like to give out information about herself. She did not like having her picture taken." Victor's face changed. "She was hiding." "Maybe," Elena said. "I never understood why." She would just say that some things from the past needed to stay in the past. Victor was quiet for a moment. "My father died when I was 25, he said finally. I was already running his company by then. He had a heart attack. Very sudden. He looked out the window. After he died, I went through his papers, his files. I was looking for information about my mother, about what really happened to her. I thought maybe he had lied to me. Maybe she was still alive somewhere." "Did you find anything?" Elena asked. "No, nothing. It was like she never existed. All her personal things were gone. Her clothes, her jewelry, her photographs, everything. My father had erased her." Victor's hands made fists on the table. "But I found something else, letters. Letters my father wrote but never sent. They were hidden in a locked drawer in his desk." Elena waited. The letters were to investigators, private detectives. My father had hired them to look for my mother. Not to bring her back, but to make sure she stayed away, to make sure she never tried to contact me. Victor's voice was hard now, angry. The letters said that if they found her, they were to warn her. Tell her that if she ever came back, if she ever tried to see me, he would destroy her. He would have her arrested. He would make sure she lost everything. Elena felt cold. "That's horrible." "My father was a horrible man," Victor said simply. "I spent years thinking my mother abandoned me, thinking she did not love me. But now I think maybe she had no choice. Maybe she had to stay away to protect herself. Maybe to protect me too." They finished their lunch. Victor paid the bill. They walked back outside. "I should go," Elena said. "I have to get to work." "Of course," Victor hesitated. Can I give you my number? In case you think of anything else about your grandmother. Anything that might help? You already gave me your card, Elena reminded him. Right. Yes. Victor looked embarrassed. I'm sorry. I'm not thinking clearly. This whole situation, it's a lot. I know, Elena said. For me too. She started to walk away. Then she turned back. Victor, what if the test is negative? What if my grandmother wasn't your mother? Victor looked at her. His face was sad. Then I'll keep looking. Like I always have. But I'll be grateful anyway. Grateful that I got to hear that song one more time. The next 3 days were the longest of Elena's life. She went to work. She took orders and served food. She smiled at customers. But her mind was somewhere else. She kept thinking about the test. About what it would mean if it was positive. She and Victor would be family. Related by blood. Her grandmother would have been his mother. All of Isabella's secrets would be true. At night, Elena looked through old photo albums. Pictures of her grandmother. Pictures of her mother and father. She tried to see connections, similarities, but it was hard to tell. People change so much over time. On the third day, Elena was at work when her phone rang. She did not recognize the number. Her heart started beating fast. Hello? Miss Martinez? This is Dr. Chen from the testing center. The technician's voice was professional. Calm. I'm calling with your results. Do you have a moment to talk? Elena's mouth was dry. Yes, tell me. The test is positive, Dr. Chen said. You and Mr. Ashford share significant DNA. Based on the markers, I can confirm that you are his great-niece. His mother was your biological great-grandmother. Elena had to sit down. She was standing in the back room of the diner. She found a chair and sat. Her legs felt weak. Are you sure? She asked. Yes, the test is very accurate. There's no doubt. Okay, Elena whispered. Thank you. She hung up. She sat there staring at the wall. It was true. All of it was true. Her grandmother Isabella had been Catherine Delgado. She had been Victor's mother. She had run away and changed her name. She had built a whole new life. Elena's phone rang again. It was Victor. Did you hear? He asked. His voice was shaking. Yes, just now. Elena. Victor's voice broke. She was my mother. Your grandmother was my mother. I know. There was a sound on the other end. Victor was crying. Not loud sobbing. Just quiet tears. The sound of a man who had waited 45 years for an answer and finally got it. I need to understand, Victor said after a moment. I need to know everything. Can you help me, please? I'll try, Elena said. But my grandmother never told me about any of this. I don't know much. Maybe there are clues. Old letters, documents, anything she left behind. Elena thought about this. After Isabella died, Elena had taken some of her things. Old photo albums. Some jewelry. A few books. They were all packed away in boxes in her small apartment. I have some of her belongings, Elena said. I can look through them. I can hire investigators, Victor said. Real professionals. They can find out what happened. They can trace her steps. Find out how she got from New York to Spain. How she created a new identity. Okay, Elena said. She felt overwhelmed. Can we meet tomorrow? Victor asked. I want to look at whatever you have of hers. And I want to tell you about her. About Catherine. About who she was before she became Isabella. They agreed to meet at Elena's apartment the next day. After she hung up, Elena just sat there. She felt like the world had tilted. Nothing was the way she thought it was. Mr. Chen found her sitting there. Are you okay? He asked. My grandmother had a secret life, Elena said. A whole other life before I knew her. Mr. Chen sat down next to her. Most people do, he said quietly. We all have pasts we don't talk about. Things we left behind. But this is big, Elena said. She wasn't who I thought she was. Yes, she was, Mr. Chen said firmly. She was the woman who raised you, who loved you, who taught you to play piano. That was real. That was true. Whatever came before doesn't change that. Elena wanted to believe him, but she felt confused. Betrayed somehow. Why had Isabella never told her? Why keep such a big secret? That night, Elena could not sleep again. She got up and pulled out the boxes she had packed after Isabella died. She had not looked through them in years. It hurt too much. Now she opened them carefully. Inside were photo albums. Old pictures of Isabella in Spain. Pictures of Elena's mother as a little girl. Pictures of family gatherings and holidays. There were also some of Isabella's personal things. A rosary, a book of poems in Spanish, some old letters tied with a ribbon. Elena picked up the letters. They were yellowed with age. She untied the ribbon and opened the first one. It was written in Spanish. The handwriting was beautiful and flowing. The letter was from someone named Maria. She was writing to Isabella. She talked about the weather, about her children, about daily life in the village. But then Elena read something that made her stop. "I'm so glad you are safe now. I'm glad you got away from that terrible man. You deserve to be happy, my friend. You deserve peace." Elena read the letter again. Then she looked at the date. It was written in 1953, 1 year after Catherine Delgado disappeared from New York. She opened another letter. This one was from 1955. It was from the same Maria. "Isabella, I understand why you had to change your name. It was the only way to stay hidden. But I miss calling you by your real name. I miss the girl you used to be. Still, I'm happy you have found a new beginning." Elena's hands shook as she read. Here was proof. Real proof. These letters showed that Isabella had been someone else, someone running from something terrible. She kept reading through the letters. There were about 20 of them, spanning several years. Maria wrote about life in Spain, about helping Isabella get settled, about helping her create new documents, a new identity. One letter mentioned a man, a powerful man in America who was looking for Catherine, who had sent people to Spain asking questions. Maria wrote that she told them nothing, that she protected Isabella's secret. "Your little boy is probably grown now," Maria wrote in a letter from 1965. "I wonder if he remembers you. I wonder if he thinks about you the way you think about him. But you did the right thing staying away. You would not have survived if you went back. And he would not have survived losing you to that place your husband threatened to send you." Elena put the letters down. She felt tears on her face. Her grandmother had loved Victor. She had thought about him. She had wanted to see him, but she was too afraid. Too afraid of what Victor's father would do. Isabella had sacrificed everything to stay alive, to stay free, and she had carried that pain with her for the rest of her life. The next day, Victor came to Elena's apartment. He looked around at the small space. One room, a tiny kitchen, a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. "You live here?" he asked. "Yes," Elena said. She felt defensive. "It's all I can afford." Victor's face changed. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean. It's just very small." "I know it's small," Elena said, "but it's mine, and I work hard for it." "I know you do," Victor said gently. "Elena, I wasn't judging. I was thinking about how my mother grew up. She came from nothing. Her family was poor in Spain. When she married my father, she thought she was getting a better life. But maybe this small apartment with freedom is better than a mansion with a prison." Elena relaxed a little. "I found something. Letters. From a friend of my grandmother's." She showed Victor the letters. He read them slowly. With each one, his face grew more sad, more hurt, but also relieved somehow. "She did think about me," he whispered. "She didn't forget." "No," Elena said. "She never forgot. She just couldn't come back." Victor looked up at her. "My father told me she didn't want me, that she left because being a mother was too hard, that she chose her freedom over me. I believed him. For so many years I believed him." "He lied," Elena said. "He lied about everything," Victor agreed. "He was a cruel man who hurt people, who controlled people, who destroyed anyone who tried to leave him." He stood up and walked to the window. "I built my company after he died. I built it to be everything his wasn't. I treat my employees well. I give them good pay and benefits. I never threaten anyone. I never control anyone." He turned back to Elena. "But I've been alone. I never married, never had children. I think part of me was afraid I would be like him, afraid I would hurt people the way he did." "You're not like him," Elena said. "I can tell." "How can you tell?" "You barely know me." "Because you cried when you heard that song," Elena said simply. "Because you spent 45 years looking for your mother. Because you care about the truth. Bad men don't do those things," Victor smiled. It was sad but real. "Thank you." They spent the rest of the day going through Isabella's things, looking at photos, reading old documents. Slowly, they pieced together the story. Catherine Delgado had married Robert Ashford in 1956. She was young and hopeful. She thought she was marrying someone who would love her. Instead, she married a man who wanted to own her. After Victor was born, things got worse. Robert became more controlling, more cruel. He did not want Catherine to play music, did not want her to have friends, did not want her to be anything except his perfect wife. In early 1952, Catherine made a plan. She saved money in secret. She contacted an underground network that helped women escape dangerous situations. When Robert went on a business trip, Catherine took her chance. She fled to Europe. The network helped her get to Spain, helped her create new documents, a new identity. Isabella Martinez was born. Catherine Delgado disappeared forever. Isabella lived in Spain for about 6 years. She met a man there, a good man who knew her story and accepted her anyway. They had a daughter together, Elena's mother. In 1958, Isabella moved to America. She settled in a different part of the country, far from New York. She brought her daughter and her secrets. She built a quiet life. She never told anyone who she really was. Victor listened to all of this. He looked at the evidence, the letters, the photos, the timeline they created. She was brave, he said finally. She was so brave. Yes, Elena agreed. I wish I could have known her, Victor said. His voice was full of pain. I wish I could have told her I understood, that I didn't blame her, that I just wanted her to be safe and happy. Elena reached out and took his hand. She knew. Somehow I think she knew. Victor looked at their joined hands. His eyes filled with tears again. We're family, he said. You and I, we're actually family. Yes, Elena said. We are. And for the first time since this all started, she smiled. Over the next few weeks, Elena and Victor spent a lot of time together. At first it was strange. They were family, but they were also strangers. They had to learn about each other, had to figure out how to be in each other's lives. Victor wanted to help Elena. He saw how hard she worked, how tired she always looked. He saw the small apartment and the old clothes. He knew she was sending most of her money to her brother Miguel. Let me help you, Victor said one day. They were having coffee at the diner. It was a slow afternoon. Elena was on her break. Help me how? Elena asked. Money. Let me give you money. You don't have to work so hard. You could go back to school. You could do something you actually want to do. Elena shook her head. No, I can't take your money. Why not? We're family. Because I don't want to be someone who takes things, Elena said. I want to earn what I have. I want to work for it. Victor looked frustrated. That's pride talking. There's nothing wrong with accepting help. It's not about pride, Elena said. It's about who I am. I'm a person who works hard, who takes care of herself and her family. If I just take your money, I won't be that person anymore. Victor was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. I understand. My mother was like that too, independent, strong. She didn't want to rely on anyone. Tell me more about her, Elena said. About Catherine. What was she like when you were little? Victor smiled. It was a sad smile, but also happy. She was gentle, kind. She used to read to me every night. She had this soft voice. When she read stories, she did different voices for all the characters. It made me laugh. He looked out the window. She loved music more than anything. Every day she would play the piano for at least an hour. Sometimes she played classical music, Mozart, Beethoven, but other times she played her own songs, things she made up. That melody you played at the diner, that was one of hers. Did your father ever listen to her play? Elena asked. Victor's face got dark. At first, yes. When they first married. But after a while, he said it was too loud. He said it gave him headaches. He told her to stop. But she didn't. She would wait until he left for work. Then she would play. Victor looked at Elena. That was the only rebellion she had. The only thing she did that he didn't approve of. And even that he tried to take away from her. Elena thought about this. She thought about Isabella, her grandmother. How Isabella had loved music too. How she taught Elena to play. How she said music was the one thing no one could take from you. Isabella taught me that music is freedom, Elena said. She said that when you play, you can be anyone. Go anywhere, feel anything. She said it saved her life. She was right, Victor said. Music probably did save her. It kept her sane in an insane situation. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Victor spoke again. What about your brother, Miguel, tell me about him. Elena's face lit up. Miguel is smart, so smart. He wants to be a doctor. He's studying pre-med at the university. He works hard. He gets good grades. You're proud of him, Victor observed. Of course. He's my little brother. He's going to do great things. He's going to help people. And you're paying for his education? Elena nodded. Our parents had saved some money, but it wasn't enough, so I send him money every month. He doesn't like it. He feels guilty. But I tell him this is what family does. Victor looked at her for a long moment. You're a good person, Elena, a really good person. I'm just doing what I have to do, Elena said. No, Victor said firmly. You're doing more than that. You could have let Miguel figure it out himself. You could have lived your own life, but you chose to sacrifice for him. That's not just duty. That's love. Elena felt uncomfortable with the praise. She changed the subject. What about you? Do you have anyone, friends? Someone special? Victor shook his head. No, I told you. I've been alone most of my life. I have business associates, people I work with, but not really friends. Not people I'm close to. That sounds lonely, Elena said. It is, Victor admitted, but I got used to it. After my mother left, I learned not to get too attached to people. I learned that people leave, so it's safer to keep them at a distance. That's sad, Elena said softly. Yes, Victor agreed. It is sad. But now, when he looked at her, now I have you. I have family. Real family. That's more than I've had in a very long time. Elena felt something warm in her chest. She realized she felt the same way. After her parents died, it had been just her and Miguel. She loved her brother, but he was away at school. She was alone most of the time. Now she had Victor. An uncle, family. Someone who understood part of her history. Someone who shared her grandmother's blood. I'm glad we found each other, Elena said, even though it happened in such a strange way. Everything happens for a reason, Victor said. My car breaking down outside this diner. You playing that song. Me hearing it. Maybe it was meant to be. Maybe my mother somehow made it happen. Elena smiled. Isabella would like that idea. She believed in fate, in things being meant to be. Victor finished his coffee. I have to go back to San Francisco tomorrow, but I'll come back to visit. And I want you to come visit me too. I want to show you where I live. Where your grandmother lived when she was young. Okay, Elena said. I'd like that. The next week, Elena took time off from work. Mr. Chen was understanding. He told her to take as long as she needed. Elena used her savings to buy a plane ticket to San Francisco. Victor picked her up at the airport. He was driving himself, which surprised her. She thought rich people always had drivers. I like to drive, Victor explained. It's one of the few normal things I do. He took her to his house. It was in the hills overlooking the city. The house was huge, modern, made of glass and steel. It had an amazing view of the bay. Elena felt overwhelmed. She had never been in such a fancy house. Everything was expensive and perfect. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a museum. I know it's a lot, Victor said. I don't actually need this much space. But when you have money, people expect you to live a certain way. He showed her around. Multiple bedrooms, a huge kitchen, a library full of books, a gym, an office with computer screens everywhere. Then he opened a door. This is the music room, he said. Elena walked in and gasped. The room was full of instruments. There were guitars on stands, a drum set in the corner, violins in cases, and in the center of the room, a beautiful grand piano. It was black and shiny and perfect. Wow, Elena whispered. Do you want to try it? Victor asked. Elena walked over to the piano. She sat down on the bench. The piano was nothing like the broken one at the diner. This was a real instrument, professional, expensive. She touched the keys gently. Then she started to play. El canto de las estrellas. The melody filled the room. It sounded beautiful on this piano. Full and rich and clear. When she finished, Victor was standing with tears in his eyes again. That's the first time that song has been played in this house since my mother lived here, he said. This was her piano. Well, not this exact one, but she had a grand piano. It was in the music room of our old house in New York. My father sold it after she left. I'm sorry, Elena said. Don't be. I'm glad you played it. I'm glad her song is here again. They spent the rest of the day talking. Victor showed Elena photos of his mother from when he was a baby. He showed her the old house in New York through pictures. He told her stories about his childhood. Elena told him about growing up in Spain, about learning to play piano with Isabella, about coming to America, about her parents and their dreams for their children. That night, Victor ordered food from an expensive restaurant. They ate on the deck overlooking the city. The lights of San Francisco sparkled below them. "I've been thinking," Victor said, "about what we should do, about how to honor my mother's memory." "What do you mean?" Elena asked. She suffered. She went through something terrible. But she survived. She built a new life. She found happiness. "I want to help other people do the same thing." Victor leaned forward. "I want to start a foundation, an organization that helps women escape abuse, that helps them rebuild their lives, that gives them money for education and housing and whatever they need to start over." Elena listened carefully. "I have more money than I could ever spend," Victor continued. "What's the point of having it if I don't use it for something good? My mother would have wanted this. She would have wanted to help people who were in the same situation she was in." "That's a beautiful idea," Elena said. "I want you to help me," Victor said. "I want you to be part of it. You understand what it's like to struggle, to work hard, to sacrifice for family. You would know what these women need, what would really help them." Elena felt overwhelmed again. "I don't know anything about running a foundation. I'm just a waitress." "You're not just a waitress," Victor said. "You're a survivor. You're someone who has overcome hard things, and you have compassion. That's what matters." "I wouldn't even know where to start," Elena said. "I'll help you learn. We'll hire people who know what they're doing, lawyers, accountants, social workers, but you'll be the heart of it. You'll make sure we never forget why we're doing this." Elena thought about it. She thought about women like her grandmother, women who were trapped and scared, women who needed a way out. "What about Miguel?" she asked. "I need to keep supporting him." "The foundation will pay you a salary," Victor said. "A good salary, more than you make now. You'll be able to take care of Miguel and yourself, and you'll be doing important work." Elena felt hope rising in her chest. A real job, good pay, work that mattered. "It seemed too good to be true. Are you sure?" she asked. "Are you sure you want me?" "I'm positive," Victor said. "We're family. We do this together." Elena smiled. A real big smile. "Okay, yes, I'll do it." Victor smiled too. He raised his glass of water. "To my mother, Catherine, Isabella." Whatever name she used, she was brave and strong, and she brought us together. Elena raised her glass. "To Isabella, and to new beginnings," they clinked glasses. Elena looked out at the city lights. She thought about how much her life had changed in just a few weeks. From a tired waitress playing a broken piano to someone with a purpose, with family, with hope. Over the next few months, things moved fast. Victor hired lawyers to set up the foundation. He hired experts in domestic abuse and social work. He rented office space in downtown Seattle. He wanted the foundation to be based there, where he had found Elena, where his mother's song had brought them together. Elena gave her notice at the diner. Mr. Chen was sad to see her go, but happy for her. "Opportunity. You deserve good things," he told her. "You've worked hard for so long. Now it's your time to have something better." Elena hugged him. "Thank you for everything. For being kind to me. For giving me a job when I needed it." "You were a good worker," Mr. Chen said. "The best. I'll miss you." On her last day, Elena looked at the old piano in the corner, the broken piano that had started everything. She sat down and played El Canto de las Estrellas one more time. The regular customers stopped eating to listen. When she finished, they clapped. The two old men who were always there stood up and clapped the loudest. Elena felt tears in her eyes. This place had been her home for 3 years. These people had been her family. But now it was time to move forward. Victor wanted to buy the piano from Mr. Chen. He wanted to restore it and put it in the foundation's office. But Mr. Chen refused to sell it. "No," he said. "This piano brought you two together. It's special. I'm going to keep it right here. And every year on the anniversary of the day you played that song, I want you both to come back here. I want Elena to play it again, to remember where it all started." Victor agreed. It became a tradition. Every year, Elena and Victor came back to the Riverside Diner. Elena played the song on the broken piano. and they remembered Isabella, Catherine, the woman who had survived, who had been brave, who had brought them together across time and distance. Miguel came home from university for the summer. Elena told him everything. About Victor, about their grandmother's secret past, about the foundation. Miguel was shocked at first, then amazed, then proud. Our grandmother was a hero, he said. She escaped. She saved herself. Yes, Elena agreed. She was a hero. And now you're honoring her, Miguel said, by helping other women do the same thing. That's amazing, Elena. Victor met Miguel and liked him immediately. He offered to pay for the rest of Miguel's education. All of it. Medical school, too. Your family, Victor said, and your parents would have wanted you to become a doctor. Let me help make that happen. Miguel tried to refuse at first, but Elena told him to accept. Let him help, she said. He wants to, and you've worked so hard. You deserve to focus on your studies without worrying about money. Miguel agreed. He hugged Victor. Thank you. I promise I'll make you proud. I'll be a good doctor. I'll help people. I know you will, Victor said. The foundation was named the Catherine Delgado Foundation. Victor wanted to use his mother's real name, her first name. To honor who she was before everything happened, they found a beautiful building in Seattle. It had offices for the staff, meeting rooms for counseling, a resource center with computers and books, and in the main lobby they put the old piano from the diner. Mr. Chen had changed his mind and agreed to donate it. Victor had it fully restored. They fixed all the broken keys. They tuned it perfectly. They polished the wood until it shone. But they put a plaque on it that said, "This piano was broken but still made beautiful music. So can you." The foundation opened 6 months after Elena played that song in the diner. There was a ceremony. Local officials came. News reporters came. People who worked in social services came. Victor gave a speech. He told his mother's story. He explained why the foundation existed. He talked about giving people second chances. Then Elena spoke. She was nervous. She had never spoken in front of so many people before, but she thought about Isabella, about her strength, and she found her own strength. My grandmother taught me that music is freedom, Elena said. She taught me that even when things are broken, they can still be beautiful. She taught me that it's never too late to start again. Elena looked at Victor. This foundation is for everyone who needs to start again, for everyone who is running from something terrible, for everyone who needs hope. We're here to help. We're here to say you can survive. You can build a new life. You can be free. Everyone clapped. Elena saw people crying. She saw women nodding their heads. She knew the foundation would help people. Real people. It would change lives. After the ceremony, Elena and Victor stood together looking at the restored piano. She would be proud. Victor said quietly, "My mother, she would be so proud of what we're doing." "I know," Elena said. "I can feel it. Somehow I think she knows." Victor put his arm around Elena's shoulders. "Thank you for playing that song, for bringing her back to me in a way, for giving me a family. Thank you for finding me," Elena said, "for not giving up on looking for her, for creating all this." They stood there together, uncle and niece family connected by a song, by a woman who had been brave enough to save herself, by a melody that had survived across decades and distances. The Catherine Delgado Foundation was just beginning, but already it was making a difference. Already it was giving hope to people who thought hope was gone. 1 year after the foundation opened, Elena sat in her new office. She still could not believe this was her life now. She had a real office with a desk and a computer. She had business cards with her name on them. She was the director of client services for the Catherine Delgado Foundation. Her job was to meet with the women who came to them for help, to listen to their stories, to figure out what they needed, to connect them with resources, housing, money, legal help, therapy, education, whatever it took to help them start new lives. It was hard work, harder than waitressing in some ways. The stories she heard broke her heart every day. Women who had been hurt, threatened, controlled. Women who had lost everything trying to escape. But it was also rewarding. Elena got to see women transform. She saw them go from scared and broken to strong and hopeful. She saw them get jobs, go back to school, rebuild relationships with their children, start to smile again. There was one woman named Sarah. She came to the foundation 6 months after it opened. She was 35 years old with 2 young children. She had escaped from her husband in the middle of the night. She had nothing, no money, no clothes except what she was wearing. No plan. The foundation helped her. They gave her money for an apartment. They helped her get a restraining order against her husband. They paid for therapy for her and her children. They helped her find a job. Now Sarah worked as a receptionist at a medical office. Her children were in school and doing well. She smiled when Elena saw her. She stood up straight. She looked healthy and happy. "You saved my life," Sarah told Elena one day. "I was ready to give up, to go back to him because I didn't know what else to do. But you showed me there was another way. You saved yourself," Elena said. "We just gave you the tools. You did the hard work." "Still," Sarah said, "I'll never forget what you did for me, what this place did for me." Stories like Sarah's made everything worth it. They reminded Elena why the foundation existed, why it was important. Victor came to visit the Seattle office often. He was still based in San Francisco, but he traveled to Seattle every few weeks. He would meet with the staff, check on the finances, make sure everything was running smoothly. But mostly, he came to see Elena. They had grown close over the past year. They had dinner together, went to movies, took walks. They talked about everything: work, family, life, dreams. Elena had never had a father figure in her life. Her own father had died when she was young. But Victor filled that role now. He gave her advice, supported her, believed in her, and Elena gave Victor something he had never had: a real family connection. Someone who cared about him not because of his money, but because of who he was. One day, Victor came to the office with a serious expression. "I need to talk to you," he said. They went into Elena's office and closed the door. Victor sat down and pulled out an envelope. "I got a call from a lawyer yesterday," he said. "A lawyer in Spain. He said he had been holding something for a woman named Isabella Martinez, something she left with instructions to deliver to her family 1 year after her death." Elena felt her heart start to beat faster. "What is it?" "A letter," Victor said. He held up the envelope. "Addressed to you, and to me." Elena's hands were shaking as she took the envelope. It was old, yellow, the paper was thick and expensive. Her grandmother's handwriting was on the front. It said, "For Elena and Victor, to be opened together." "She knew," Elena whispered. "She knew we would find each other." "Maybe," Victor said. "Or maybe she hoped. Maybe she left this just in case." Elena carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. Several pages written in Isabella's careful handwriting. Some of it was in Spanish. Some in English. Elena read it out loud. Her voice shook, but she kept going. "My dearest Elena and Victor," the letter began. "If you are reading this together, then my greatest wish has come true. You have found each other. You know the truth. And you are family." Elena paused. She wiped her eyes. Then she continued. "I need to tell you both things I could never say while I was alive. Things I kept secret because I was afraid, because I was ashamed, because I was trying to protect everyone I loved. Victor, my sweet boy, you were only 2 years old when I left you. I know you don't remember me. I know you grew up thinking I abandoned you, thinking I didn't love you. But that is the furthest thing from the truth." Victor made a sound. Elena looked at him. Tears were running down his face. She reached across the desk and took his hand. Then she kept reading. "I loved you more than my own life. You were my everything, my reason for living. Leaving you was the hardest thing I have ever done. It broke something inside me that never healed, not even after all these years. But your father was a dangerous man. He was violent, controlling. He threatened to have me committed to a mental institution. In those days, husbands could do that. They could lock their wives away and throw away the key. I would have disappeared forever, and you would have been left alone with him. I chose to leave because I thought it would save us both. I thought if I was gone, he would focus on his work, on building his empire. He would raise you, but he would not hurt you the way he hurt me. I prayed every day that I made the right choice. I watched you from a distance. I hired investigators to send me reports. I saw your school pictures. I read about your achievements. I was so proud of everything you became. You grew into a good man despite your father. You have his intelligence, but your mother's heart. That gives me peace." Elena paused again. She had to take a breath. Victor was openly crying now. She had never seen him like this. "Elena, my treasure, my beautiful granddaughter, I raised you when you were little. Those years with you were the happiest of my second life. When I played piano with you, when I taught you the song, I felt close to my first son again. I felt like I was giving you a piece of him, a piece of our family history. I could never tell you the truth about who I was, about Catherine Delgado, about Victor. I was still too afraid. Even though Robert Ashford was dead, I feared his legacy. I feared what might happen if the truth came out. So I kept my secrets, and I'm sorry for that. But I always hoped that somehow, someday, you and Victor would find each other, that the song would bring you together, that my two children would become family. Elena's voice broke on the word children. She realized what her grandmother meant. Victor was Isabella's son. Elena's mother was Isabella's daughter. That made Victor and Elena's mother siblings. Half-siblings, which made Victor not just Elena's uncle but something closer, more connected. She kept reading. The song El Canto de las Estrellas was written by my great-grandfather. He was a composer in Spain. The song has been passed down through my family for 4 generations. It was never published, never recorded. It existed only in our memories and our fingers on piano keys. I taught it to you, Elena, so that it would survive. And I taught it to you, Victor, when you were just a baby. I would play it every night before you went to sleep. I don't know if you remember, but I hope that somewhere deep inside the melody stayed with you. If you found each other through that song, then it did its job. It connected you across time and distance. It brought my two families together. It proved that love survives, that music survives, that family survives. Now I want to tell you what to do with this knowledge, with this truth. Don't waste time being angry at me for keeping secrets. I did what I thought was right, what I thought would keep everyone safe. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should have been braver. But I cannot change the past. Neither can you. Instead, use this knowledge to help others. Victor, you have resources, money, power. Use it for good. Help women who are trapped like I was. Give them the freedom I had to fight so hard for. Elena, you have compassion, strength, understanding. Use it to connect with people who are hurting, to show them that life can get better, that they can survive and even thrive. Together, you can do something meaningful, something that honors my memory and helps people who desperately need it. I want you to know that I died happy. Yes, I had regrets. I missed Victor every day of my life. But I also had joy. I had my daughter. I had Elena and Miguel. I had music and flowers and sunshine. I had a good life. Not perfect, but good. And I had hope. Hope that someday you would find each other. Hope that my story would help others. Hope that love would win in the end. Take care of each other. You are family. Blood family. That means something. That means you have a responsibility to love each other, to support each other, to be there for each other. Play the song sometimes. Play it and think of me. Remember that I loved you both, that I did the best I could, that I never stopped being your mother and your grandmother, even when I could not be with you. Live good lives. Be kind to people. Make the world a little better because you are in it. That is all any of us can do. With all my love, Catherine Isabella Delgado Martinez, your mother, your grandmother, your family. Elena finished reading. She put the letter down on the desk. The office was silent except for the sound of both of them crying. Victor stood up. He walked around the desk. He pulled Elena up and hugged her tight. They stood there holding each other and crying. Crying for Isabella, for Catherine, for the woman who had been so brave and so broken, who had saved herself but lost so much in the process. She was right, Victor said finally. His voice was muffled against Elena's shoulder. Love did win. We found each other. We're doing what she wanted. We're helping people. Yes, Elena said. We are. They pulled apart. Victor wiped his face with his hand. We should frame this letter. Put it in the lobby with the piano, so everyone who comes here knows why we exist, knows the story behind it. That's a good idea, Elena said. They did frame the letter. They put it on the wall next to the restored piano. Anyone who came into the Catherine Delgado Foundation could read it, could understand the story of the woman who inspired it all. The foundation grew. In the second year, they helped over 200 women and their children. They expanded to include job training programs, classes in finance and computers, support groups, therapy. Miguel finished medical school and became a doctor. He specialized in trauma care. He volunteered at the foundation 1 day a week, providing free medical care to the women who came there. I'm doing this for Grandma, he told Elena. And for you. You sacrificed so much for me. Now I want to give back. Victor retired from his technology company. He was 69 years old. He had more money than he could ever spend. He decided to dedicate the rest of his life to the foundation. He and Elena worked together every day. They made decisions together, hired staff together, met with clients together. They were a team. On the 5-year anniversary of the foundation, they held a celebration. Hundreds of people came. Women who had been helped by the foundation. Staff members, donors, community leaders. Sarah came, the woman who had come to them with nothing. She brought her children. They were teenagers now, healthy and happy. Sarah had gone back to school. She was studying to be a social worker. She wanted to help other women the way she had been helped. I'm going to work here someday, she told Elena. At this foundation. I'm going to give back what was given to me. I'd love that, Elena said. At the celebration, Elena and Victor stood at the piano together. Elena sat on the bench. Victor stood beside her. Together they played El Canto de las Estrellas. It was the first time Victor had played the song. Elena had been teaching him over the past few years. He was not very good, but he tried hard. His part was simple, just a few notes, but it meant everything to him. The melody filled the room. Everyone stopped talking and listened. Some people closed their eyes. Some people cried. Everyone felt the emotion in the music. When the song ended, the room was silent for a moment. Then everyone applauded. They stood up and clapped. Some people cheered. Victor looked at Elena and smiled. We did it. We honored her. We made something good from something painful. Yes, we did, Elena said. That night, after everyone left, Elena and Victor sat alone in the foundation's lobby. They looked at the piano, at the letter on the wall, at the photos of Isabella and Catherine that they had framed and hung up. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't walked into that diner? Elena asked. All the time, Victor said. What if my car hadn't broken down? What if I had waited outside? What if you hadn't decided to play the piano that day? But you did walk in, Elena said. And I did play. And here we are. Here we are, Victor agreed. Two people who were alone, who were searching for something without knowing what it was. And we found each other. We found family. Elena leaned her head on Victor's shoulder. I'm glad we found each other. Me too, Victor said. Me too. They sat there in comfortable silence. Outside, the city was busy. Cars drove past. People walked by. Life went on. But inside the Catherine Delgado Foundation, there was peace. The foundation would continue to grow. It would help thousands of women over the years. It would expand to other cities. It would become one of the most respected organizations of its kind, but it would always remember its beginning. A broken piano in a small diner. A forgotten melody played by a tired waitress. A billionaire who heard his mother's song after 45 years of silence. It would always remember Isabella. Catherine. The woman who survived. Who ran, who hid, who built a new life from nothing, who loved her children even when she could not be with them, who passed down a song that would eventually bring them together. Elena started working with other organizations. She gave speeches about domestic abuse, about helping survivors, about giving people second chances. She became known as an advocate, as someone who understood both sides, the struggle and the success. Victor used his connections to raise awareness, to change laws, to make it easier for women to escape dangerous situations, to make it harder for abusive men to get away with their crimes. Together, they changed lives. Hundreds of lives. Maybe thousands. But the most important life they changed was each other's. Elena was no longer alone. She had family. She had purpose. She had hope. Victor was no longer isolated. He had someone who cared about him. Someone who knew his story. Someone who shared his blood and his mission. They had each other, and they had Isabella's blessing. 10 years after Elena played that song in the diner, she got married. She met a kind man who worked as a teacher. His name was David. He was patient and loving and understood her work at the foundation. Victor walked her down the aisle. He was 77 years old, but still healthy and strong. He wore a fancy suit and had tears in his eyes the whole time. Your grandmother would be so happy, he whispered to Elena before the ceremony started. She would be so proud of you. She would be proud of both of us, Elena said. The wedding reception was held at the foundation. They pushed all the furniture to the sides and set up tables and chairs. They hung lights and flowers everywhere. They made it beautiful. During the reception, Elena sat at the piano. She played El Canto de las Estrellas for everyone. Her new husband stood beside her. Victor stood on her other side. Miguel stood behind them with his wife. They were family. All of them. Connected by blood and love and music. After Elena played, Victor stood up to make a toast. He raised his glass and looked around the room at all the people gathered there. "To my mother," he said. His voice was strong and clear. "Catherine Isabella. She suffered, but she survived. She ran, but she found home. She lost, but she also gained. She taught us that it is never too late to start over. That music connects us across time and space. That love survives everything." He looked at Elena. "And to my niece, Elena, who found me through a song, who helped me honor my mother's memory, who became the family I thought I would never have. I love you. I am grateful for you." Every day, everyone raised their glasses. "To Catherine Isabella," they said together. "To Elena, to family, to love, to survival, to hope." Elena looked around the room, at all these people who had come together, at the foundation they had built, at the lives they had changed, at the family they had created. She thought about her grandmother, about Isabella sitting at that old piano in Spain, teaching a little girl to play, passing down a melody that would eventually bring two broken families together. She thought about the broken piano at the Riverside Diner, about how something damaged can still make beautiful music, about how ending can lead to new beginnings. She thought about Victor, about a little boy who lost his mother, about a man who searched for 45 years, about finding him and giving him back a piece of what he had lost. And she thought about herself, about a tired waitress working double shifts, about a woman who thought her life would always be small and hard, about discovering that she was capable of so much more, all because of a song, all because she decided to sit down at a broken piano and play. "Thank you, Grandma," Elena whispered. "Thank you for the song. Thank you for everything." Somewhere, somehow, she felt Isabella smile, felt her grandmother's love surrounding her like music, like the notes of El Canto de las Estrellas floating on the wind, the song of the stars, the song that survived, the song that brought two lost souls home to each other, the song that proved love is stronger than time, stronger than distance, stronger than fear. The song that proved broken things can still make the most beautiful music of all, and in the lobby of the Catherine Delgado Foundation, the restored piano sat quietly, waiting for the next person who needed to play, waiting to bring comfort and hope and healing through music. Because that was Isabella's gift, not just to her family but to everyone. The gift of knowing that no matter how broken you are, no matter how lost, there is always a song inside you waiting to be played. There is always hope. There is always a chance to start again. There's always family waiting to be found. All you have to do is sit down and play.